Let's talk about asymmetric warfare, which is your area of expertise. First, talk us through what you call the true nature of the threat in South China Sea, and what exactly asymmetric warfare is in relation to the South China Sea.
Well, at the beginning of my research, there were two assumptions. The first one is that there's a great deal of confusion about what is happening in the South China Sea. Some people will call what is happening area denial, some call it hybrid warfare, some call it gray zone tactics. My opinion is that it's neither specific of the three specifically, but all of them all at once. And so my research is more about listing the phenomena that are happening, mapping who is doing what, when, with what kind of intensity, diversity, regularity. And in the end, I was able to list about 200 phenomena so far. And it's a constantly updated list and divided in 12 categories. So some correspond to the most graphic things that we have seen recently, like the June 17th. But it's actually a small fraction of the whole of what is happening. Because and by the way, China is about 90% of that list of 200 phenomena. And what is very unique to the South China Sea is that China is, not just China, but mostly China, is using these phenomena not separately, but side by side, working together, helping each other, even sometimes allowing each other, like reclaiming Mischief Reef or Subi Reef or Fiery Cross Reef, allowed for China to deploy much more often, much longer, its maritime militia or its Coast Guard.
So what can you give us a better idea? I mean, what's been happening the most out of the phenomena that you've recorded? What has baffled you? And I mean, give us an idea of how you're able to track these movements.
Yes. Yeah. So first of all, it's not just the quantity. Of course, there's more and more incidents, that's for sure. But there's also more regularity, more diversity, more intensity in the means that China is pushing forward to advance its interest. We noticed a clear switch from, like, if you focus on the data from CSIS China Powers, they listed 73 major incidents between 2010 and 2020, and at that time, 50% were with Vietnam, 25% with the Philippines, and actually, all the way since 2019, it's reversed. Now it's Philippines that is much more on the line of these incidents, first of all. And second of all, China is not just applying pressure or using violence, but it's also manipulating national and international law, HADR, economy, with all sorts of sanctions, propaganda, communication. There's really plenty. In total, I could list so far 12 different categories of phenomena.
Before we go to the 12 categories, I just wanted to ask, you mentioned in 2019 it seemed to shift, right?
Sure.
So whereas before it was mostly between China and Vietnam, now it's mostly between China and the Philippines. 2019, that was smack dab in the middle of President Duterte's term, so no major political shift there. What happened? What did you see?
Well, it happened that there was two incidents, major incidents in the east of Vietnam, where China tried to deploy an oil rig at the one time, and some exploration, oil and gas exploration ship at the second time. And I think that Vietnam really considered it was a life and death situation, where if it didn't resist, it would have to submit. And then on both incidents, Vietnam deployed every single ship that they had, and they applied transparentizing, by the way, and they allowed for public demonstration, which is quite rare in Vietnam. And I think China was not ready for the whole for everything that unleashed against them. So they tried 2014, didn't work. They tried again 2019, and I think they understood it was not going the right way for them, and that maybe they had to switch. I'm very sorry about that, to a weaker target, or what they considered to be a weaker target.
And so in short, Vietnam
stood up.
Yeah, they stood up.
Well, it doesn't mean that everything is rosy and fine for Vietnam now, but what is sure is that we moved from 50% to Vietnam to now 50% to the Philippines.
So let's go back to what you were saying, 200 incidents that you've studied, which you have divided into 12 categories. Can you talk us quickly through these categories? Maybe the picture will become clearer.
Okay, so I'll try to do them all. So there's economy, infrastructure, capacity building, HADR, higher education and research, diplomacy, propaganda and communication, aggressive lethal means and aggressive non-lethal means. So it's pretty good.
Just to define terms, HADR is humanitarian and disaster response.
In your study of China, what have they responded to?
Sorry, can you come again?
What have they responded to in the way? Which fields? What are they afraid of? I mean, since we're talking about warfare here.
Yes.
What have you noticed that the China responds to?
I think generally China doesn't like being pointed out for doing bad things, even though it's doing bad things. But transparentizing, there was some kind of dispute between the spokesperson of the Coast Guard recently and a Filipino researcher who said transparentizing in itself is not a strategy. But I think the authorities never said transparentizing was the alpha and omega of everything they intended to do. Otherwise, they would not have invested in building up the Navy and Coast Guard or acquiring the BrahMos or those air radars from Japan.
Okay, let's
But-
take it from there
but-
though. Like, is there a broader strategy that you're seeing? Because
Wait, sorry.
Yeah.
To follow up on that question, you were talking about a conversation with different defense and security analysts, and the other part of that conversation, which another defense analyst just published a paper or an article on.
Or it was more a
says-
comment on social media.
Right, right. Says that China has long stopped responding to reputational damage, right? This is Xi Jinping's China. It no longer reacts as much to,
Yes.
But
in the meantime,
reputational risks the way that they did maybe 20 years ago. And so that's why the Transparency Initiative does not have as much teeth now, is the argument. What do you think?
I would say the Filipino government is on a tightrope because on the one side it needs to defend the national interest, but on the other side it also needs to be strong enough to push forward as far and as strong as it can. And the Philippines is on the way to be stronger with the BrahMos, with the radars, the air radars, naval radars, and so on. But many people ask, why doesn't the government use the MDT? Why don't they, after the June 17th incident? But it's a little bit like the story of Peter and the wolf. If the Philippines cry for the wolf too early, it might cancel the Joker card, which the MDT can be. So if it goes too fast or too rapidly, yeah, it could be not usable anymore.